18th, 2021. First on the agenda is to take action on the minutes of January 21st and 28th. I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes, those two dates.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, a vote on the road maintenance district tax for Beechwood Lenstock Association. What's Lenstock?
Excuse me?
What's Lenstock?
I don't know, maybe maybe Howard or Carla or Laurie
Just
together.
curious.
It's just Beechwood, but that's the name of the association.
Okay,
I think Len was the developer, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think it has something to do with the subdivision plan.
Yeah. He was
Must
like,
be-
Len Stock was a mashup.
Yeah.
Correct.
I just got a couple questions I was thinking of. So you have a board, correct? That makes the decisions on the maintenance and the fees and stuff?
Well, we currently have a board, yes.
And how many members on the board?
9 plus last year's is an emeritus member, last year's president. My predecessor is still on the board as emeritus.
Okay, so the board votes to do all the maintenance and who they hire and all that?
Yeah, we set the budget, we put things to the association vote. And yeah, we make whatever decisions we're authorized to make.
So if you make a decision, does the whole association have a chance to vote on it?
Well, this decision certainly, not every decision, but the major decisions, yes, the budget decisions, everything goes to the whole association. We have meetings twice a year, Memorial Day and Labor Day roughly, when people are there. And the budget and major decisions, what to do about road speed control, what to do about weed control when we're allowed to do that. All the big decisions go to the association.
Okay, because I was just curious, like say down the road that you want to pave all the roadways and some people couldn't afford that they have a chance to vote on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I had. I mean, I have no issue passing this along to the town voters.
No, I don't either. What was your vote on this particular? I can't remember.
The vote by the association members last August, which was in person if people were there and were comfortable dropping their name into a box isolated or by email. The vote was, I think, 81 to 9.
70,
80 to
Art, Howard, it was 71 yes, 8 no.
71 to 8. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I have no problem.
I have no problem
Oh, you wanna-
putting this on the warrant and letting the town vote on it. It's up to the townspeople. I don't think we
Yeah, that's
should
our request.
either. And that's what you're looking for, right?
Yes, this is just one step in the process to go to the town to authorize you to seek special legislation.
We got to vote on it or just,
Yeah,
so I'll make a motion then, we put this on the warrant for our next annual town meeting. And let the voters, decide on it.
I'll second.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank
It'll be
you
on the
for that.
town warrant.
Thank you.
We'll be looking for you and the finance committee to support that article if you see fit to do so. Thank you for
Okay.
putting it on the warrant.
Well,
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
if you have buttons, you let me know, I'll wear one.
We might do that.
Yeah, that's cute.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
review and vote on the Stockbridge hazard mitigation plan.
We have the final hazard mitigation plan. It's been approved by FEMA. It's gone through various steps, and the last step is to actually vote to pass the hazard mitigation plan, the draft one. It hasn't changed from the one that I believe it went out months ago, the draft plan. So FEMA's reviewed it. It's gone through all the steps. This just allows us to close out the document, and then we can apply for hazard mitigation planning grants, which the town has received in the past. And this is a continual effort to make sure that we have all of our plans in place that would qualify us for HMP grants. Of course, we're now going after the MVP program from the state, so we can go after those action grants. So will allow us to continue to move forward.
Okay, so both
It's called the,
FEMA and MEMA have both reviewed
Yep.
this?
Yep. all reviewed, all set, draft was passed, and now it's just the vote of the selectmen to adopt.
Have you guys seen the plan?
It's been quite a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's good. Who did the work on this?
A lot of the work was done by Chris and Scott, and then Foresight Engineering,
I just want
the
to
process.
thank those involved in doing this. I know it wasn't that easy of a task.
Yeah.
But thanks, Chris and Scott and Foresight. Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the hazardous litigation plan and move forward with it.
Okay, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Project updates.
Everett Road Bridge bids are due today at 2:00. So to get that project back, first one. So this is to get that project moving with a spring construction date and completed during this construction season. So at 2:00 today, we'll be opening them, then we'll send them to Foresight, who will do the technical review to make sure they meet all the specifications.
Did we receive any?
Bridges and the rest.
How many have we received so far?
Don't know, don't check that until at 1:30, well, at 2:00, we'll go to each of the drop boxes, open them up, we'll pull in them, and then we'll go from there. So
Sure, we have some.
we're 14 or 15 on the plan holder list. So there was a substantial number on the list. Doesn't mean they're gonna bid on it, though.
Right.
It means they just took out plans. So I will definitely at the next meeting be reporting back who was and then who we'd like
How
to.
much did we appropriate for the project again?
So there was a $500,000 grant for the small bridge and then 500,000 additional. And that was to include the project, all the engineering, everything. So,
100,000 additionals from the town?
yep,
We haven't done the work.
I think that was 2 years ago,
It was
a couple years
A
ago.
couple of years ago.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And what's the decision tree look like on the second Everett Bridge? I know that, I mean, I'm just thinking of it as a set to open the road.
That's really for you guys to decide how you would like me to approach that. Right now, as I said at the last meeting, I was working under the assumption of we are having the first one done now. We get to clear up that grant, get it out of the way, get the engineering done, and then apply with a hope. It'd be really fast if we could get it next construction season. More likely it'd be the construction season of probably 2023 if we were to go after the grant and get it. So in a similar situation of trying to come up with getting $500,000 from the small bridge program and then a matching amount from the town. And that could depend on the scope of that project. I'm not sure if that bridge is better, worse.
And is it copacetic if as you open the bids up and we had this $1 million pot of money, including 500 for Averick from the town, can we use any of that to at least start the engineering assessment of the second bridge?
Yeah, we'll have to see where we come in as we close it out and begin going that way. Last time, this was one that had to be rebid. Wasn't started, but had to be rebid, and the original bids were 800 and something was the low bidder last time. So if it comes in there, minus the engineering that's already been done, then we'll have the final costs. So
Who are we gonna have oversee the project?
our engineers, and you'll see that actually
That's gonna be every
the
project.
auditor findings, one of the findings they did find was on the garage, the fact that we didn't have an engineering oversight on the project and
We paid for it.
how the payment breaks and the rest were done, and that was, so in all these projects, I am talking to the engineers about them doing the construction
Yes.
oversight, especially on all those milestones, similar to what our building inspector, before he closed in the walls, he comes and checks that.
And they know what to look at.
Age as we go along is getting checked.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was an oversight that should never happen, but it did.
It'll cost us a little more in engineering,
But it's,
protect us from
Done right.
anything going wrong on these
Keeps
projects.
us from wasting money.
Yes.
now, would it improve our chances getting the grant if we had the $500,000 already for that second bridge?
No, you would state in your grant application where additional funding. So once you get the engineering done, the engineering comes up with a cost estimate. If the cost estimate is X dollars, they're gonna ask where the remaining funds are gonna come from. And then you would put forward that there. But because we have no engineering yet on the second bridge, we don't really have anything yet. Yeah, no matter what, we're still looking at a year out because we
Yeah.
have to get the engineering, design, construction drawings and the rest done to get you to the point where we are now with the first one. So,
Yeah, it's just, okay. I mean,
Hindsight, probably should have lumped them both together and did them both.
Yeah, I know.
But it's past that point.
look, my concern right now is that with the president announcing all vaccinations might happen by the end of July, we may be reasonably faced with a decision to delay town meeting until the August timeframe to try to get the most participation necessary. And that gives us 6 months potentially to start work on this engineering, so we at least know the scope of the problem. And if we can figure out a way to do that work, I would love to get the work done because, I just think that there's a lot of moving parts here and
okay.
we'll lose another construction season because we don't even get approval to start doing the analysis so that we can then know what the budget is, and we could be in 2024. I don't like that, but
Well, I mean, we managed to have a meeting last May
It was a great meeting.
in the middle
it
of
wasn't May, it was the end of June.
June.
But-
But wasn't pushed out until August, and I would anticipate that May would probably be reasonable this year.
I would like to have sooner the better. That's
A lot of
something.
people are being vaccinated and,
Yeah.
we can do the same kind of arrangement we did last year where we have this outside. We don't need to have it inside necessarily.
I understand. I just,
Successful last year.
I just look at all of these Zooms that we're currently having. And Michael, can you show the screen that shows how many people are on it?
Oh, we are on. Yeah,
That's us?
it's us and CTV at speak.
Yeah, so, my point is just that the level of engagement on some big decisions in this town right now, including our bylaw changes and all the discussions that we're having, is near zero. And I think there's some fatigue from
Oh, no, we have,
everything people have been through, that it says 5 people total.
yep, all their video and audio is shut off. That's why I can't switch the view.
All
So
right.
there's still 5.
All I'm saying is, when I just like to have the town's input for big decisions is just as and I don't know why we had 200 people at the DeSisto 37 Interlake in town meeting when we talked about that bylaw change, and yet we had 4 people besides the planning board on the one last night. But that's the reality that we face. I think that there's fatigue, and I just want to make sure that we don't, you know what I'm saying? It's just.
Well, we have to have a quorum. I mean, the bottom line is you have to have a
Yeah,
quorum
which is right.
regardless.
But that's all the way to the decision point. It's not when people have had a chance to learn about the proposals before them. And I don't see the engagement right now in the proposal. In fact, it's a concern I have not just on a bridge, but on the entire slate of things that we're proposing is I just don't see engagement right now.
Right, but we don't right now. I mean, I think this is just one of those critical path issues where there are certain prerequisites that we would have to even pose a non-binding question. We don't know what the cost would be. We don't know what the extent
Oh, yeah.
of the
Okay.
engineering is. So I don't know how it's feasible to put something together for this town meeting because I don't know that we have all the information that we would need.
But one of the things we talked about that I haven't heard us in our public budget discussions talk about, Michael and I have, is the need to make sure the engineering budget is sufficient so that as things come up, we, don't need to wait a whole nother year to figure them out. And I think that where reserve fund transfers require both this board and the finance committee, nobody's going to be, wasting money and spending it, but that we should start to think about how we enable decision makers to look at things like this in between town meetings. And I think that one of the ways to do that is to make sure that we have the nest egg, if you will, that we can all access if we decide, for example, that this is something that's important to the board,
Well, I mean, where do we stand with the budget for engineering? I mean, do we have leeway to?
Well, right now, the budget looks really solid overall. So there are things that we can look at from carryovers to the rest, and we'll get a much clearer picture of the budget in the next month as we start winding down winter operations and moving towards spring.
Hopefully, all the 6 inches of snow.
I
So,
mean, in your experience, I mean, what would be the cost necessarily of doing the engineering study for that?
well, see, there's there's like three parts for, you got feasibility, which we'd be skipping because we'd be looking to do that. So you're gonna first go to 25% design, which would give you those rough cost estimates and the rest. Then you move to full design, construction documents and the rest. So the first step would be getting those cost estimates that would allow us to go after the grant and would allow us to go after without committing too much. But feasibility, engineering on a whole is 10 to 15% of your project. $1 million project, you're looking at 150,000 of its engineering, but
Is that upfront engineering or all the overall?
overall.
That's the overall. So the 25% design. is
25% could be a $10,000 to $15,000 item.
Well, then I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah,
That's an easy.
Just saying.
but it comes with prioritizing those next projects.
Right.
And
Right.
right now, the only ones that we're pushing forward really for the next town decisions are the chime tower
Right.
and the intersection. And then, the next ones are lining up the engineering for and what do we need for money? I will let you know that as far as like how we can run town meetings and everything else, the governor's orders around all the remote participation are only through March 31st. So it'll be curious to see because if he doesn't extend it, then you have to hold your meetings if it's written when you're supposed to hold them or within the fiscal year. I don't know if we have a charter that calls for it in May or if it's just the historic date. Some communities actually have a date they have to have it the third,
No, I don't-
if not, you just have to have it before.
Day one has been that.
Right. So some things we could look at if we feel like it could be pushing back the town meeting to June instead of May, so there's a couple things. And then, it doesn't have to be outdoor, indoor, there's still gonna be restrictions. How would it be set up? Yeah, you did it last year. A lot of communities did it last year outside.
And but traditionally, the town meeting occurs before the election, isn't that right?
The day before.
Yeah,
One day
It
before.
used to be the same day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying that like that was a significant change last year. I think we don't need to do it now, but at some point,
Right.
That also, I like traditions is all I'm saying, but.
Right. Well, and also it's like last year, you're on the spot because now you've been elected and normally we would have already had the annual town meeting.
Yeah.
And so you're coming in kind of like,
Sweating in the suit that we're once a year.
right away. So I think it's tough. It's nice having it be right before the election.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
makes sense. But I mean, the other thing we have to think about is the size of this warrant, the other, projects that we're going to be asking people to approve. And do we want to overwhelm people? Because we're going to have a lot on this warrant.
I'm very concerned about that, especially given that I think there's a lot of fatigue in the community just
Right.
after everything that everyone's been through in the past year.
Right.
And I would completely support offloading as much as we can or we're comfortable with to like a September, October meeting where people start to come up for air.
Yeah, so I
And then
think
the
it
things
might,
like, for example, some of the tax issues, our tax classification hearing isn't till late October. We don't need to do any kind of non-binding poll on the residential exemption until October. I mean, we don't need to talk about that in June or an October tax classification hearing. That's an easy one for us to move off the plate,
but I mean, this might be a good example of something that could be pushed to like a special town meeting that's in the fall,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good point.
And then by that time, we have time to go ahead and get these cost estimates and be able to put together, a rational and more detailed information for the voters to make a decision on.
One of the other projects that's moving forward is the cat and dog fountain. Yesterday, we moved the cat and dog Timberwolf restorations. So they came in, Berkshire Crane came in and did the move. Coordinated with the highway to get the cover off. And now today they're putting the cover back on, but we removed the structure itself. So now it's going to be redone and then restored and brought back in the spring.
I thought they were going over there so the cat and dog could get married. Wasn't that a church that went to?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Yep. It did. So that's moved. It's gonna be at the studio for months now as he puts it together, recreates it,
And you.
does the molds and everything else. So this was a tricky part of coordinating between highway, getting everything opened up in between weather and that we had dates going and times going, and then yesterday was like the perfect, it was sunny and cold, but there was no precipitation, no nothing else. So it ended up being the perfect day to coordinate the move. So the VHB proposal's in, so I'll be sending that around to everybody with the cost estimates of what it will take to do the different options of paving stones and the rest. So I'll be placing that on the agenda for our next meeting on the 25th, but I'll get that out to you guys today so you can begin reviewing the cost estimates. And this one is, which ones, and now you have some decisions to make for if you're gonna put this forward to town meeting of what type of work you
And
want.
dog, you're still talking about?
No, the intersection.
Oh, the intersection, sorry.
Yep. So now the cat and dog is pretty much, now it's in the artist's hands. He'll recreate, and then at some point we'll have a date where it's coming back.
No, but the CPC had a request to finish the cat and dog. Does that include money for this guy?
No, this part is completely done. There's some things that they would like to do with the basin and some other things that
Okay.
they asked for.
It's not like we're
Nope.
jumping the gun, okay?
No, if the whole project is available, ready to go. So,
And everybody knows the CPC meeting got moved from tonight to a week from tomorrow because of a conflict. So if anybody's watching and it doesn't sound like there is. The public meeting for the CPC is the 25th, 26th.
and then the Larry Wog plans are coming along. We're reviewing, keep going through and reviewing everything that's been done so that we can rebid the project, and some things such as the sheathing, temporary sheathing that was put in and stuff like that. Some questions have come back, like to the highway department, do they want that sheathing after it's pulled out? But it's pretty big. We don't know if we actually have storage for it. I know there were some
It's big and metal.
big metal
Plates.
sheets that were driven into the ground in order to create the temporary channel that's down in
It's a
the,
cofferdam.
yeah, and the cofferdam and that. Behind the cofferdam, there's metal sheathing to keep the river.
They pounded in.
Channel it,
I can kind of visualize it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
you're talking 20-something foot heavy steel piece, whether we could even move them or, so it becomes one of those things. We look at whether or not, as this project ends, are we gonna take possession of them or not, or would the contractor dispose of them? Some of the stuff that'll get removed after it's no longer needs to be in there.
Yeah.
So,
It's gonna be storage issue too.
no, that's mainly what, actually, that's the biggest issue.
Just get rid of them.
We just don't wanna
Consider taking.
take something that we're gonna shove in the woods and really have no use. Do we have a use for it? Is there something that we could do? If not, you scrap it.
If we had a great use for it, it would be.
It's basically big iron sheets.
yeah, so it's gonna rust.
Yeah, it's all designed to be driven in, heavy duty, pulled out, and then,
Recycled.
So we're just analyzing that. There's some old piping that'll come out, some temporary piping. But what they use for their temporary piping doesn't match with what we have. So whether or not, Mike Buffoni or Tony need any of that, it's just going through the checklist of everything and that. So, we're still hopeful by the middle of next month of having the bid out and then get it in and then try to get a late construction season, but like we said, a August, September end date to really push this through. So those are all the big projects that are still, I know we have a bunch of other smaller projects, but these are the projects that have changed since our last meeting. And we'll just continue to plug along on the rest.
Have we ordered our garbage cans yet?
No, not yet. I got stuck in the middle of, I have to move my disabled daughter, so.
Okay.
things-
That's cool. 3 years for garbage cans.
We just have a,
I want to get them ordered soon, like in March. They need to be ordered, so they're here for the spring.
is it appropriate for us to have maybe just a very brief conversation about our hike yesterday, or would you rather wait?
Oh, what?
Oh, this, the tree.
Just wanna-
If you want to just
the tree.
Just a trim, obviously, we can't take any action on it, but
Yeah, no, right.
this happened yesterday. If you want to just give an overview of,
So Michael and I went to, we met with a guy named Don Gooch, who is the former head of Forest for All Massachusetts for DCR. A guy named Mike Morey, who is a consulting forester, and a gentleman named Bob Leverett, who is one of the premier old growth forest experts in the whole world, actually, at least in New England. And we did a walk through Ice Glen, and the takeaway was that there's actually 3 different pests attacking our hemlocks. There's woolly adelgid, there's the looper moth, which is a caterpillar that attacks, and there is the third one is a scale beetle. And they, by attacking the plants in tandem, they greatly weaken them. And the takeaway was that if we don't take action, we could be looking at a mass die-off of those old growth trees within 2.5 to 3 years. So I don't know what comes out of from there. We're gonna both follow up, but we have, obviously Ice Glen is an iconic part of the town. We're not gonna be able to save every tree, but looking at the 200 to 300 to 400-year-old stands, the good news was the white ash that has been a terrible problem in town in general are still in good shape up there, but they could be monitored. Now, there is a type of I call it medicine because it's better for PR, but there's a type of insecticide you can inject in the tree that keeps it's a neonicotide, which is the kind that we don't want to get into the bee population. But if you inject it into the trees, it gets completely absorbed by the tree and it doesn't get into the surrounding soil. So that it doesn't kill off other things that we don't want to kill off. And there's so we're going to try to figure out a plan with these guys for how we save as many of the old growth trees as we can. The good news is there's still barely time to do that. If enough needles fall off, the tree can't suck the medicine up.
Right.
And they just, they get lost.
So, but these trees are all located on town land?
Well, the ones we looked at were all on the Ice Glen parcel that the town owns. There's a much larger parcel on each side. One is Beartown that the state owns, and the other is the Laurel Hill, Loris Tower property. We did not evaluate those. But I will reach out to, both of those owners because I would like a, coordinated effort, if there's other, stands that have never been forested, never been, cut. I think we should try to figure out with private money how to save, or with state money, how to save as many of the, things that define.
Right. Well, I think the key is communicating that to the other interested parties.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Believe me, Hillary Dealey is on my, hi Hillary. I'm mentioning you because she's the new president of Laurel Hill and I want to make sure that she's briefed right away, for exactly that reason. So.
Okay.
You wanna?
and we can put this on the agenda for a more formal discussion
Yes.
and that going forward.
Right.
Okay. Glendale Post Office closing.
More good news.
I mean, we have nothing to say about that, do we?
We really don't. We received the email communication from Neil's office, of Margaret Boyle, that the Postal Service, it remains a landlord-tenant issue. They do not know the reason why the landlord, and it's inappropriate for them to speculate. They can't speak for third parties, and they do not comment on landlord-tenant negotiations. So we're not privy to any of that. It's going through not a discontinuance, it's going through emergency suspension. Because it's an emergency suspension, it did not invoke the 60-day customer notice period. So another loophole in how they have to do things. Moving forward, the UPS decides to keep service in Stockbridge and move to a new location in Glendale. There will be public notice and a comment period. So we have submitted, and even before this, we had submitted to the post office the possibility of using land that's owned by the fire, where our fire station is and where the access road to the pump station is, that our land's right beside the current post office, with the possibility of basically setting up an outdoor with a canopy over it, post office boxes. So then there wouldn't be a post office building, but it would be a place where you could pull up, get out, just like you see in front of large developments and stuff, where there would be PO boxes. So there's some possibility of even putting them on the little road that goes down to the service, to the pump station or something like that. They're supposed to have their engineers from Albany come out and look at the location. And then how could it be used? Well, is it something that'd have to be a poured path, ADA? They're just not gonna be able to come up with those decisions in time to prevent the boxes from moving as they are. Right now is the push to not make that permanent from our part, is to say, no, we're working, we would like you to really consider these spots. So,
So do we know when we would expect them to actually
no.
follow through? I didn't think so.
So, yeah, but we are still asking the questions and trying to see if they will do something in regards to those.
What about home delivery?
Yeah, that's another whole change
I mean,
in that.
And Michael,
But I would say
the
it's,
view on the
They're gonna
public in case there's questions or hands to go up.
Yeah, because they're all,
Webinar?
it costs a lot of money
they're-
to
oh,
hire additional.
They all have-
personnel.
sorry. I believe I am on the gallery view won't come up because everybody has their camera shut off.
All right.
It will still, if somebody raises their hands or something, we still should see it, but yeah.
I just want to point out that our local postmaster has no input into this decision. And I believe that that the powers that be at the federal government have told him not to comment. So this is not at all his fault. It is not at all something that he can, help you with if you want to vent. This is, he's just a guy that, is managing our 01262 and is not in a position to, even comment according to what I've heard. And so let's not give him too hard of a time.
No, that's entirely true. These decisions are being done at the highest level of the post office, so, yeah.
okay. Considering waiving fees for seasonal alcohol license renewals. These are for who? Tanglewood.
Yeah, these are the
Just buy one, get one
ones,
free kind of thing?
a lot of the nonprofits that run seasonal operations and that, so it's similar. I apologize, I should have the list in front of me.
Fine, I knew.
For this, yeah, we've had, so, I know that we'll be putting them out next month, so it'd be similar to what was done with our other ones. Obviously, the ones we've excluded in the past have been, we've done nothing for the package store because there's no evidence that package stores were in any way affected by this. But nonprofits and restaurants and the rest, you've already done the restaurants one. This would be taking care of the other ones.
So I make a motion, we waive them. I mean, unless you want to talk about it or someone else wants to talk about it.
Well, we need to know specifically
Yeah.
which ones we're waiving. So
Yeah,
why
let me
don't we-
put this on the meeting for the February 25th meeting, and I'll have the list with me.
When are the applications due?
Teresa was planning on sending them out next month, so we can,
We have time.
we can do this next meeting. So why don't we move this over to there, and I'll have the list, cost, everything, so, yeah.
This is before we adjourn, if we are planning a Maytown meeting, we came up with a list of 14 or so, items that just this board identified. We need to, just looking at the schedule, March, April, probably do two of these ideas a week.
Yeah.
We need to start to really have this agenda. And I also would suggest that maybe we meet every week and not just 3 times a month, just for the next 2 months. Or else we got to start to push them off. We're at the point where we got to get to these.
We have seven meetings on our regular schedule.
So,
And on that 7th meeting, we would typically finalize the warrant.
But I don't want to be doing discussions on bylaw changes or warrant items the last meeting. I think that we really have 5 meetings to get it all done unless we add 1 or 2 to the schedule. And so I just think, that we all should be talking to Michael about the order that we want to see things raised and make sure that, we let interested parties know if it's possible. I mean, we obviously have the agenda posted, but,
Right. And some decisions that we may be able to make in the next little bit would be, right, if there is no set date, and because last year was so far off, whether or not you push it back to a June meeting, which would then open up a whole nother 3 meetings, so you're talking 10 meetings before we'd have to finalize a warrant.
Right.
But, yeah.
And this is just asking because I haven't been through this process. With our meeting next week, I believe it's billed with the finance committee
Yep.
as budget and warrant items discussion.
Yeah.
Is this on the warrant side more of a brainstorm? Because, we may need another meeting scheduled, obviously, when we're a little bit closer to completion of whatever the list is. Some of these things.
I'm gonna have the capital one for all of you by tomorrow.
Okay.
So you're gonna have the capital with what our free cash is, what our debt is, what the rest is, with all the ones that have a price tag added to it. Then there's the other ones, which are the individual warrant articles for changing from kennel to driveway to sign to.
I mean, it's my understanding that we have the house numbering one, Donna sent changes in on. The STR one, Donna gave us feedback and you had some that you were thinking of proposing. These are ones I think we can quickly prioritize. Sorry about that. We can quickly prioritize and kind of make some decisions on because they're largely ready. And you had others like the kennel one.
Dog
So
and
I
kennel
would
has also
suggest-
come back.
I would suggest that we maybe start with those 3 because they are, they're at least on paper and we can post them and we can start to do things with them, and start to get feedback. And then start to prioritize the rest. As I said, obviously the things like the non-binding residential exemption, I think we could easily put that one off.
Right.
Because, we don't need to make a decision in October if we don't think we're going to get everything on this warrant,
Well, the bottom line is if we have 7 meetings right now, as
Yeah.
things stand now. We go through 3 or 4 meetings and then we reassess where we're at. And if we feel we need to have additional meetings, then we schedule, a couple of additional meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Anything else from the public if there's out there? Seeing none, make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
All right. Thank you.
Yippee.